This week in Pennsylvania, top Republican Senate candidates face off for the first time. We'll have a recap of that debate. Plus, the top Republican gubernatorial candidates square off for the first time as well. We'll break down that debate. Hello, welcome to This Week in Pennsylvania. I'm James Crummell in for Dennis Owens. We're covering hot topics in PA policy and politics, as well as the issues important to you and your family. Well, this week we hosted two more debates ahead of the primary. This first one was for the Republicans who want to be Pennsylvania's next U.S. Senator. A lot of topics were addressed during the hour-long forum, and the candidates didn't pull any punches. Topic 1, electability. Right out of the gate, the candidates were asked about how long they've lived in the state. Our poll shows that's important to voters. That's an issue both frontrunners, Dave McCormick and Mehmet Oz, have been criticized for.
I spent 10 years building a great company in Pittsburgh that created 600 jobs. And throughout that time, throughout my entire life, we've had the family farm for 45 years, and I've been the owner of that family farm for the last 10 years. So my Pennsylvania roots are deep.
Well, Pennsylvanians that I speak to are quite clear. They care much more about what I stand for than where I'm from. But I did grow up less than 10 miles from Kennett Square.
They want one of their own. You know, I don't make many promises on the campaign trail, but I can promise the people of Pennsylvania that when these carpetbaggers lose, you will never see them again.
Pennsylvanians know I will always fight for them because I always have. I always will because I always have. That's the key differentiator in this race.
I am an 8th generation Pennsylvanian, so my family's been in Pennsylvania longer than anyone else in this race. And as a matter of fact, my first real job was at Hershey Park.
If you've been watching TV over the past few months, you know this race has been vicious with attack ads. It didn't take long for the gloves to come off in this debate either.
These are ads primarily run by one of my opponents, Mr. McCormick, and they are designed to try to fool the electorate. Mr. McCormick approached President Trump with these types of information, was unable to pull the wool over his eyes. President Trump saw right through him. He therefore did not endorse Mr. McCormick. He endorsed me.
I've done business around the world in 20 countries, including 2% of our business in China. And it's just disingenuous for Mehmet to say that when Mehmet has so many dollars coming in his pocket from China, which we can talk about, that it's sort of mind-boggling. Mehmet has flip-flopped on every major issue.
They've spent $60 million fighting with each other. And people pat themselves on the back and bang their chest about how wonderful they are. This election is about fighting for the people of Pennsylvania, making Pennsylvania what she can be. We can't have this. We have to beat the Democrats in November.
Be very mindful and be very clear. It doesn't take much for someone to learn our talking points as conservative Republicans and then come back on stage and parrot them to us.
We need someone who can win this election. I'm a reliable conservative voice that will always vote conservative and America first in Washington.
More sparks when the topic changed to the economy, the supply chain crisis, and jobs.
Democrats can change absolutely everything tomorrow if they wanted to. They would just have to admit that every single thing they've ever done and said has been a complete and utter failure.
I'm running to save Main Street, Pennsylvania. The two out-of-staters, the two tourists who've moved here to run, they don't know Main Street, Pennsylvania. They haven't cared to spend time there until they decided to run for office. You can't save Main Street, Pennsylvania if you cannot find Main Street, Pennsylvania.
I'm not going to be out Pennsylvanian or out America first by anybody on this stage. This is where Mehmet's got a real problem. Because in his own words, he said as recently as October 13, 2014, that we should have a ban on fracking in Pennsylvania.
Dishonest Dave is at it again. He went groveling to President Trump with, again, these types of allegations. President Trump saw right through him, did not endorse him, and then he endorsed me.
All right, definitely a lot to unpack there with that debate. I'm now joined by Christopher Nicholas and Danielle Gross. Thank you both for being here today. Let's talk about this. Danielle, let's start with you. How about your overall thoughts on that debate?
That debate was a little bit chaotic, to put it mildly. I really wish that they had left some of the name calling and mudslinging in their commercials. They're spending millions, tens of millions of dollars on these commercials where they all attack each other. I really wish more of them would have focused more on talking about their policies and less about making accusations at their fellow candidates, and some more time actually talking about what they want Pennsylvania to look like.
So Christopher, we had 5 candidates on that stage, so a pretty crowded stage. Did the candidates do their part to stand out from the pack?
I think they all had their certain strategies to do it. And I would just remind Danielle that the Senate Democratic debate we had last week featured 2 candidates going after the third one for pulling a gun on a black guy. So in this debate, at least, we were talking about issues pertaining to people's residency, which is legitimate, and to their issue positions, which is also legitimate. But you saw 5 different Republican candidates there, each stake out their particular claim to why they should be the Senate Republican nominee. So I tell my friends, if you can't figure out someone to vote for in this race and the governor race, you're just not trying.
And Danielle, and you can respond to what Christopher said too, but I also wanted to ask you, did someone in that debate stand out to you as someone who was the leader of the pack that would go on to face one of those Democratic candidates in November?
The only candidate who I thought was any different than the other people who were kind of in a race to, Trumpville, was Jeff Bartos, who didn't seem to be going quite down that path. So he did seem different than the others to me.
I would agree with that. I think you saw Jeff Bartos from Montgomery County, a businessman and real estate investor, tack a different way. You had the 2 ladies in the race, Carla Sands and Kathy Barnett, go heavily down into the Trump lane. And then Mr. McCormick and Mr. Oz were kind of trying to settle scores from earlier campaign ads in the race.
Interesting that the Trump-endorsed candidate wasn't the one chasing that line.
Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering, do you think it was a good strategy? You saw, it seemed like they kind of broke off in pairs. You had McCormick and Oz, they were after each other, and then Sands and Barnett also. Do you think that was a good strategy?
Well, it was obviously one from the start because Dave McCormick went after Dr. Oz from the beginning, and Carla Sands went after Kathy Barnett, including criticizing what she said was her poor showing when Kathy Barnett ran for Congress in Montgomery County 2 years ago. And then Jeff Bartos, like Danielle alluded to, was kind of off in his own kind of middle lane there. So again, there's actually 7 candidates in the race. We had 7 at the debate. The first one, the 28 or 29% wins.
Yep. All right. Good points. A lot to unpack there, but we're going to move on and we're going to talk about our third and final debate. 9 Republicans will be on next month's ballot for Pennsylvania governor. The top 4 were on our debate stage. This was another hour full of hot topics, and the candidates didn't hold back. Topic number 1 for the candidates: Pennsylvania's crumbling infrastructure and what to do about the state's gas tax.
And if the money isn't going where it's supposed to go, then it should. And if it's not going to, then we should eliminate that portion. Taxpayers shouldn't be paying the tax on something that it's not going to where it should be going to.
If we spend the money where it needs to go, we can take care of the resources and get the bridges and roads where they need to be. It needs to happen. I'm tired of the talk and the dithering on the political side.
We need good infrastructure to get businesses and commerce to come back to Pennsylvania. I will be a governor that gets that done.
What you've just heard is a bunch of double talk from 3 politicians. They say one thing, and then they do another. That's why people don't trust politicians. What we need in Pennsylvania is a conservative outsider.
The gloves came off early in this debate as well.
Nonsense is still nonsense, especially when it's spoken from an attorney.
Doug Mastriano and Bill McSwain swiping at each other. McSwain calling Mastriano a career politician. Mastriano firing back with former President Trump's unendorsement of McSwain.
Only one here in front that did something about voting integrity. My colleague here had the opportunity, and as Donald Trump said, he chickened out. He was a coward.
I don't need a lecture from anybody about courage or toughness. I served our country as a United States Marine Corps infantry officer and Scout Sniper platoon commander. And I know Doug served as well, and I respect that. But as an Army officer, I know you also spent your career wishing you were a Marine.
So far, Trump has not endorsed anyone in this race.
One thing I've learned about President Trump is you don't speak for him. You just keep on working hard. He wants to see who's going to work hard, who's going to win. Pennsylvania is very important. I believe that I give us the best chance to win.
I have talked to the president, certainly, and I'd love to have his endorsement. He's done some great things. He's put America first, as I will put Pennsylvania first. He's brought the contingency and the group that I'm bringing together, the blue-collar workers.
Turning to the economy, the candidates were asked about enticing businesses back to PA and didn't hold back on blasting current Governor Tom Wolf.
He spent the last 8 years of driving business into the ground. In fact, he used the past years under the pretense of COVID to shut down companies and deem people non-essential while he kept his own cabinet shop open.
You want to know how to get employers into Pennsylvania? Be a businessman. Be a guy that signed the front of a paycheck, not just the back.
We have to have a culture of work. We should not be paying people not to work. So that is a basic precept that seems pretty commonsensical, but Governor Wolf literally paid people not to work.
What I wouldn't do is what Governor Wolf did, literally crushed our businesses by picking and choosing who could stay open and who could close, as if he was some kind of a dictator.
In a race where the most popular candidate is undecided, they did their best to convince you why they should be Pennsylvania's next governor.
Pennsylvania is at a fork in the road, and we need strong conservative leadership in our state. We need a conservative outsider to lead our state. We don't need more politicians.
We need someone that is like the people of Pennsylvania, a blue-collar worker that worked hard to grow a business. I'll work just as hard for the people of Pennsylvania.
We need proven, demonstrated leadership, the kind of leadership we saw over the past years where I stood often alone or with a handful of my colleagues to reopen a state, for the elderly, for the children being masked up. Somebody who's been fighting for election integrity and taking his shots, even subpoenaed by this McCarthyist Democrat cabal in Congress. We need somebody who's not afraid to stand up to the left.
We need someone who has the courage to fight for you. I am proven, road-tested, and ready. I am pro-God, pro-gun, pro-family, pro-life, and pro-America. This will be the new Pennsylvania. This will be the great Pennsylvania comeback.
All right, there you have that one. Let's talk a little bit more about it. Christopher, let's start with you. What were your takeaways from this one?
Well, again, just like in the Senate debate, you saw 4 candidates, each with a specific strategery, as Bugs Bunny would say. You had Mr. McSwain, who's currently running an attack ad against the other 3 folks on the dais there, go after all 3 of them by saying several times that he was the only kind of political outsider who hadn't held office. And you saw Mastriano kind of be in his special lane. And I think you saw our upcoming guest, former Congressman Lou Barletta and Dave White, kind of take up the traditional Republican lane. And again, these are 4 of the 9 candidates running. So again, there's a flavor for everybody here, James.
Danielle, this race is a little bit different because we know who they are going to go against in November. They're going to be running against Democrat Josh Shapiro. Was there someone on that stage this past week that you think Shapiro should be most afraid of?
No, none of them particularly stood out
Not
to me.
Not anyone, Danielle? Not a one?
Not a one.
Okay.
To me, you know, Senator Mastriano takes all the headlines for being the most extremist, and to me, they all are the same flavor of extremist with different skins. It was interesting that you talk about traditional Republican lane when almost I think every single one of those candidates talked about getting rid of the gas tax or pulling gas tax also from the state police and putting it towards roads and bridges. And then they also talked about how they wouldn't increase taxes. I'm not sure how they anticipate spending more money on roads and bridges, coming up with some kind of miraculous pot of money for the state police and not raising taxes. If you're a Pennsylvanian and you believe that, give me a call, because I've got some oceanfront property in Pennsylvania to sell you.
Look, Danielle, we've had, when Governor Wolf's term mercifully comes to an end at the end of this year, we will have had 16 of the past 20 years under Democrat control. And let's face it, our spending and our taxing priorities are all out of whack. So I don't think any of those candidates are out of line for saying what they said about the gas tax. It will take some work, but we don't have to keep doing what Governor Wolf has done. What I was surprised by, quite frankly, is how little time the candidates spent talking about Josh Shapiro.
Okay, we're gonna have to end it right there. We're going to take a quick break. One of those candidates is here in the studio with us. We're going to talk to Lou Barletta when we come right back.